This is the HP Omen 16 Max, HP's long-awaited re-entry into the high-end, mid-sized laptop market. In terms of price, specs, and affordability, let's see if it can give the competing laptop manufacturers a run for their money. Let's go over the specs. My configuration is an RTX 5080, an Intel Core Ultra 275HX, 32 gigs of 5600 MHz RAM, a 1TB SSD, a non-OLED panel, QHD 500 nits IPS, a 1080p webcam with Windows Hello, a run-of-the-mill backlit RGB keyboard with pudding-style keycaps, first featured on Omen's 14-inch lineup, basically meaning the light shines through the keys a bit more, and a 6-cell 83 watt-hour battery. The ports included are pretty good, although a little bit lacking. No SD card reader. On the right side is a single USB Type-A, basically meant for your mouse, which they got as far back as they possibly could. Left side has a 3.5mm headphone jack, and two Thunderbolt 4 ports side by side. Glad to have those, but if I could, I'd swap one of those to the back to hide a dock plug-in or an external drive. On the back is an HDMI 2.1, which pairs great with one of the new 360Hz QHD OLED panels, an RJ45 jack for wired internet, and for some reason another USB-A. Again, I'm not sure why they didn't swap one of the Thunderbolt side plugs for the USB port. I think that would have been perfect for most users, but that's more of my opinion. Now, another thing to note, this is the Best Buy configuration, which means despite this thing being configurable on HP's website with hundreds of different configurations, HP and Best Buy assume this is going to be one of the better all-around configurations in the US that most consumers will buy. They have two SKUs of this laptop on Best Buy, both nearly identical, with this one going for about $3,040 now at the time of writing, and a 2TB OLED model for $300 more than that. Ouch. Not nearly as much ouch as the top-end configuration on HP's website, breaking $4,000 easily. It's a good thing HP is known for putting their laptops on sale frequently. I would not bother looking at these laptops while they're at MSRP. Wait for a good sale or grab an open box model if you need something today. That would be my recommendation right off the bat. Here's the kicker too. I pre-ordered my model for $28.99 straight off Best Buy, but then soon after they upped the price another $140. Now this listing was on Best Buy for about a month, and right before pre-orders went live, Best Buy had this unit listed for about $26.99 too. So they bait and switched a lot of customers that were already planning on pre-ordering this unit. Pricing aside, the design of this thing is just the right amount of fun. The Ethernet port on the back has separate lighting on top for those two indicators that show connection and activity. I'm sure it's been done before, but I've never seen something like that on a laptop, and it's beautifully subtle. In the same respect, so is the built-in physical camera shutter mechanism. I still see people install their own contraptions or tape over their laptop camera, so having such a sleek one with, again, a subtle machined pattern is a small thing that contributes to the feel of the whole system. One thing I can't forgive whatsoever is this barrel plug for power. This has to be one of the worst plugs on a laptop I've ever seen. The beefy 330 watt power brick is already bigger than my Lenovo's 330 watt, but this connector is almost a deal breaker. It's way too slender, and with this being a right-angled connector, it looks and feels like it's constantly being worn and tugged, loosening and slowly ruining this plug's integrity. I don't want to shill out an extra couple hundred for a new charger down the line. Worse still, I don't want to fish around for a broken adapter inside the plug. While this is a gamer laptop, I actually really like this font choice here. I used to rock a Zephyrus throughout the years, and that was the one thing I absolutely despised about it. The font they use on their keyboards is just, it's too immature. It's too much. This one is more numerical in its aesthetic. That's kind of the way I would describe it. Reminds me of Black Ops 2's text font, actually. The trackpad is weird. It's not glass topped, I don't think, and there's just a bit more resistance than I'm used to, but it's completely serviceable. The click on this thing is wonderful though. My Legion's trackpad kind of feels like an Amazon Basics TV remote, but this thing feels like it's got its base turned up, and the click feels deep. The power button is located on the keyboard. They did program it so that it needs to be pressed for a short amount of time to combat misclicks, but I prefer something more robust. Booting up the laptop and fighting against Office 360, Game Pass, and OneDrive subscriptions, I was then sent two emails telling me that 1, your product is registered, and then 2, I now have a McAfee subscription. That's disgusting. Other than that, the bloat isn't that bad. It's just, I don't know if this was Best Buy's doing or HP. They were at least colluding for sure. What is super bloated is the HP Omen Gaming Hub, which I thought was going to be a real treat to use. This thing is slow, and getting access to your device settings is buried beneath news and marketplaces. The software I need to change my RGB and performance profiles should not be the place where I can buy Nintendo eShop cards, G Fuel knockoffs, and anime gear. Also, love the AI graphics for performance features. That makes me really trust them for sure. Sadly, there's no alternative software out there in the wild to replace this junk, meaning if you want to access performance modes, which you do, it's a necessary evil. On my Lenovo system, I found a random one on Reddit, and that's working great for me, so I don't have to use Lenovo software. I think it's Vantage or something. I honestly thought there was going to be one for HP, but it seems like nobody's figured that out yet. HP also owns and operates HyperX products, and they have this feature where you can utilize up to 3 HyperX products wirelessly without an external receiver. I've got a wired Origin 60, and that's it. I guess I'm taking their word for it. Getting the latest drivers, let's get into some performance numbers. I'll be comparing this laptop to my Legion 7, equipped with the same screen, same amount of RAM, same power budget, but a 4080 and a 14900HX. This unit really was and still is a budget king. So we'll see if the Core Ultra series has finally matured in performance and if the 5080 can justify its value over the 4080. Now with gaming laptops also comes power profiles. And the profiles here are a bit difficult to get used to if you're coming from an eco, balanced, and performance mode. Omen has a 4th tier that's called Unleashed, which is a little confusing at first, but it's meant to function kind of like an enthusiast's custom mode. See, when you see reviews, custom modes on most laptops aren't what you'd think that they'd be by the name. They're not really there to find middle ground between your first 3 modes per se, although on most you can do that. Most laptop manufacturers spend time creating their modes with meticulous testing, and for the most part, they serve their purpose. The intention for custom modes is to push your own system to its limits, cranking fan speed and sometimes even overclocking, however much you can with your specific unit's tolerances. Despite the bloat of the Omen software, Mr. Gamer's Nexus himself gave the control offered on this unit, this configuration, a thumbs up. Meaning, yeah, if you're looking for something to tinker with in that way, the 5080 is, so far, offering headroom that the 5090 isn't. First up in 3D Mark, an Omen's Unleashed preset with maxed out fans, a 20-minute loop of 20 runs, gave us a net high of 5217 and a low of 5079. The next best performance mode with fans on auto, meaning they curve with the temperatures and workload, gave us a net of 5063 at the high and 4926 at the low. The runs passed at 97.4 and 97.3 respectively. For context, the 4080 14900HX Lenovo, on its high performance mode, which I keep it at all the time, gave me 4260 as the high and 4198 as the low. This run was passed at 98.5%, meaning that the performance is more predictably consistent after reaching its thermal limit. I was surprised to see the performance numbers have such a large difference in this test. I mean, taking the worst laptop scores to simulate an under load scenario, we're looking at little over a 20% improvement in the benchmark alone. For the rest of the review, I'll be running the laptop in Unleashed mode with maxed fans, as well as performance mode with auto fans. Starting off with Cyberpunk 2077, we're looking at a consistent overall improvement of around 23 to 25% over the previous Gen 14900HX in 4080 combo. The Unleashed mode doesn't really bring any relative noticeable improvement over performance mode. This game offers a clear look into what the 50 series and the matured Intel Ultra platform is going to bring to the table this time around. Up next is Forza Horizon 5, which has a lot of extra data to go over, which I'll put up on screen. Just scanning the results real quick shows again another clear win for the new hardware, and again makes me doubt the utility of leaving on maxed out Unleashed mode. Our Omen was able to cross over the 150 FPS mark, while the last gen Lenovo struggled to even make it to 119 frames per second. I'm starting to gather some theories as to what's contributing to all of this, but we'll move on to the next game for now. Red Dead Redemption 2 is great for making all NVIDIA laptops look like losers. This game notoriously favors Team Red hardware, and there's no exception here. The 5080 in Beast mode managed to hit such terrible dips in frames that it lowered the average frame rate, making the performance profile a clear winner. The Legion managed to get the highest average, but did so only achieving about half the frame rate in its minimum frames per second. If I had to choose one of the 3 options to play this game on, it'd be the Omen in performance mode for sure. Black Ops 6 is next, yuck, and this is where Intel's ultra-efficient chip gamble finally pays off. And we can see that thanks to these numbers. The Omen in performance mode garners better numbers thanks to its reeling back of the 2025HX when the GPU needs more thermal headroom and power. More performance from the CPU won't contribute to a better game experience if the GPU can't keep up with it. The Legion, by the same logic, is struggling regardless, with the 14900HX requiring much more power and thermal headroom, more importantly, than these new chips, making the 4080 have to fight for its power and heat output. Lastly, in Rainbow Six Siege, we're given a hearty dose of reality about some of those now lighter competitive titles. On 1440p maxed out settings, this game's benchmark only utilized about 3.5 gigabytes of VRAM and 5 gigs of RAM. CPU utilization was also hovering around a paltry 20%. This means this benchmark really came down to the GPU, and the 5080 was able to provide smaller yet more meaningful improvement over the 4080, and Unleashed mode was able to increase performance even more in this scenario. So the 5 games tested point to the overall system achieving a better score all round compared to the Lenovo, my current daily laptop. On paper, that was going to be a given, but the real star of the show is the 275HX. When Intel released their first gen of Core Ultra chips in laptops, it was almost a joke, pairing them with high-end laptop GPUs like the 4090. They simply couldn't perform as well as the previous 14900HX, leading many, like me, to skip over product lines I had been a fan of, namely last year's out-of-touch Zephyrus line. The RTX 5080 and 275HX make for a great pairing, but let's stop talking about Nvidia and Intel and open up this laptop now that testing is concluded. HP touted a very robust cooling system for this laptop, and after seeing Lenovo basically turn my beloved Legion into an Alienware, I knew it was time to give this similarly built 16 Max a proper chance. After 2 tiny Phillips screws at the bottom and 4 strange Phillips screws at the top, a couple of pry tools gets us into this sweet looking vapor chamber. Right off the bat, I thought that when HP put out pictures and reviewer materials on this laptop, this internal look was pre-production. But as it turns out, every buyer is going to have one of these marked up plates on the inside. The RAM is covered by a sticker, not the harder material like the rest of the system. These are the modules they spec'd my 32 gig system with. And I'd show you the SSD, but despite there being 2 slots for PCIe storage, the one that is populated is under the giant vapor chamber shroud. And from what I can tell, it would require me to completely open up this cooler just to replace the SSD. It's situated under a single heat pipe, so my guess is that it's supposed to help with cooling. But seeing as this unit comes with a measly 1TB drive, my usual strategy of not overpaying the manufacturer for the SSD and buying a bigger drive on my own is going to prove difficult. I'd honestly leave it if it was a 2TB, but while testing only 6 games, the drive only had about 200GB left with my 1TB unit. If I were to install the full version of Black Ops 6 and maybe another game, I think we'd be in big trouble. Since this unit is on loan and I already managed to scuff up the top lid, dropping my camera on it, I'm not going to be opening up the vapor chamber assembly in this video, but otherwise this is what the internals look like. So then, with this laptop leaving an overall positive impression, should you buy this thing? Absolutely not. Nope, not right now. For $3,040 before tax on a non-OLED 1TB 32 gig model, it's just too much, and it's almost offensive to those who were barely able to justify the $26.99 price tag it was introduced at. At that price, it makes just enough sense to be going against the 4090 units of last year, and beating those on power efficiency thanks to the new Intel CPU. So then it's not an if you should buy it, it's an if and when you should buy it. HP tosses their laptops on sale a lot. And with this thing already boasting better open box deals than what I paid for it the second time around with their price hikes, a combination of both should bring these things back down to a fair price to performance. I'd even recommend saving a bit more for the OLED 2TB model if you want something that you won't need to upgrade later on, thinking back to that unwieldy SSD slot and the OLED screen. For $300 more, that's a fair deal in my book, but that's also assuming that HP will decide to mark down these more expensive units too. Speaking of whatever HP decides to do, their website makes these laptops even more expensive in their configurator, which is a shame for those who want these units with the white finish, since Best Buy does not currently offer a SKU in that colorway. Even at a good price, you'll also want to be prepared to either deal with the, in my opinion, bloated software, or pick a performance profile and stick to it and hope it stays. I wish they'd take a page out of Lenovo's book and bake it into the system itself, not just Windows, but maybe with time we'll see this honestly well-made laptop reach its potential. Anyway, thanks for watching my first ever laptop review. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful in your laptop shopping quest, I've been on too many of those lately, leave a like and get subscribed. I'll try not to spam your feed, but I do plan on reviewing other products I find interesting and there aren't enough reviews of online. You can also find me at Less Thought Of if you want something else to watch, and I will see you in the next one.